Greetings and welcome to my new calculus channel. My name is John Gabriel, and in this video I'm going to talk about some events of my life in the year 2022 as part of my Musings series. So this will be uh, Musings number 16. So what you're seeing in front of you is a little clip from a very nice place called Port Washington in Port Angeles in Washington State. So, um, how did I get to be in this place? So, let me explain. Um, I had just come out of a previous bad experience where, again, I had a run in with a psychotic narcissist principal who eventually got fired from a private school I was going to teach at. I never got to teach there. It was a school in Albany, New York. Anyway, so I had a choice either to join Americorps and volunteer, by the way, volunteer at this Port Angeles High School as a math tutor and or experience homelessness again. So I was under enormous amounts of stress and I simply didn't want to go through a homeless experience. So I decided that I was going to go to Port Angeles and I accepted an invitation from Americorps and they were paying me a measly little stipend. Here I am, the world's best math teacher, and I was getting a stipend of $1,500. Can you believe that? And they told me before I went there that they would organize accommodation, etc., etc. But it turns out that to rent a room in this place because it's such a fancy place is over $1,200. So certainly I wasn't even able to find a room, and I actually stayed with the person who recruited me for the entire time I was there. Now, what's unique about the story? Well, the story is about the school itself. So there was just recently a change in principals. A new principal by the name of Tanner Zart was hired. I don't see his name there anymore, so I don't know. I don't know if he's still working there or not. But in any case, I was going to I'll come back to this guy later. I was going to tutor math. So I sat through one lecture or one lesson in every classroom about, I think, the whole of the math department. A prize bunch of morons, by the way. And this guy here is one of them. He's the calculus teacher. I mean, I've never met somebody as stupid as this guy. Really ridiculous. Okay, it's nothing personal. He's just an idiot. And he's the calculus teacher. So then there was a math teacher whose classroom I sat in. Her name was Stacy Fournier. And my goodness, there was a kid there who had finished all the problems and she knew he was finished. And when he approached her asking her what he should do next, you're not going to believe this, but she told him that he should just do the same problems again. Absolutely. I was shocked. Of course, I never said anything in any of the classrooms and I never reacted because I know what reptiles, jealous, stupid reptiles, American math teachers are. So I purposely kept my mouth shut. In any case, I never went back to that classroom again because, there was no teaching going on. All she was doing was telling them, oh, and you need to draw a line under this and leave space to write this. And I mean, it's unbelievable. And I looked at their salary scale, and apparently this moron, Stacy Fournier, earns close to $95,000 a year. I mean, she can't even teach grade two mathematics, never mind high school mathematics. Then there was another guy. This is another interesting character. He was a professor of English. Okay, so I don't remember his name, but he was apparently there teaching math, and he was just trying to impress me because I was sitting at the back of the classroom saying that he had a PhD and that he found teaching mathematics much better than English. But you'll be surprised at what he did the whole period. He did nothing but go through a whole list of exercises where he was showing students what happens if you replace the variable, as he called it, x with zero. This is what happens. So, of course, those poor kids, a lot of them children of conservative parents, also did something quite shocking because at the beginning of the period, they all stood on their desks with a Heil Hitler salute. And, when I told this to the Americorps coordinator, she found it hard to believe, but I wish I had recorded it. And they all got on their desk while the recital was done. In the United States, they recite a little patriotic, I forget what it's called again. Anyway, it's not important. If you're American, you know what I'm talking about. It's Oath of Allegiance or something, I think. And also a total waste of time. But they got on their desks with their Heil Hitler salute, and it was just incredible. Anyway, so then I finally sat in this guy's class. This guy, I mean, by the way, he was the only one of the teachers there with a BSc in math, I think, if I remember correctly. So, uh, strictly speaking, he was the most graduated or most degreed amongst the lot of the morons, because I don't think the other teachers had math degrees. There was an English professor, but he didn't have a math degree. So let's get rid of that. And I don't know what he earns, but I'm sure if that dimwit Fournier earns 95,000, he must be earning close to 150,000. At any rate, Port Angel is a very beautiful town, very expensive. It's a holiday town. And and I need not mention the head of the tutoring section. I think her name was Bridget something, a real dimwit too. I can't tell you how stupid this woman really is, but they were expecting me to do a lot more than what a math tutor does. And in other words, to coordinate with the math department, which I wasn't prepared to do. I simply couldn't have that stress in my life, in addition to being, you know, in a situation which I didn't want to be in the first place and taken advantage of, obviously. It turned out in the end that they all didn't like me and they complained. They thought that I was correcting them, which is ironic because I never made one comment in any of their classes that I sat in. And I was very polite, left the classes, so it's just the attitude, basically. Anyway, John Henry's class was taking calculus, which is kind of funny because they couldn't even do simple equation solving problems. I'm talking about linear equation solving problems. And in one lecture, because Henry knew that I didn't think zero is a number, he spent 40 minutes talking about zero being a number. So I just listened and said nothing. Believe it or not, I said nothing. And he's such an idiot because the kind of exercises and the silly little videos he produces doesn't really help his students at all. So now all of you are wondering what this has to do. Well, some of you think that I don't know what is done in mainstream calculus, but actually I have a lot of experience in that. So what I was doing was I was uploading these applets, showing students how to solve these problems. One of the problems that they had, which I don't think any of them could solve, is they had two circles like this, okay? This circle varying, uh, the red circle varying its radius, a blue circle like this, through which this green line would pass, okay? And they had to figure out what happens as the point P approaches the origin, what happens to R, this point R, as P approaches the origin. So, of course, typically this is a limit problem, right? And gosh, I mean, it's such a waste of time to be honest, because it really doesn't teach the kids anything about calculus. It's not even calculus. It's got nothing to do with calculus. Let's look at the explanation. Okay. So what happens here is that we first calculate the equation of this line PR, and then what we have is a relationship between x and r, from which we can see what happens if r goes to 0, which is this last version here. So if r is 0, then this becomes 1, and the distance that you see here from 0 to r, so if we had to put a line segment in like that, 0 to r, that distance changes and approaches the value of 4, but it's obviously not going to be defined at that point. And why is that? Because if you put 4 in here for the, or rather 0 in here for the radius, what happens? Okay, so look, here you're getting the radius and it's going towards 0, right? Okay, it's going towards 0. But putting 0 in there, this, well, first of all, this value is also going to become 0. And then if you put 0 in here, then we're going to have 4. But for some unknown reason, it's not defined when you put 0 in R, according to the morons of mainstream mathematics. I mean, think about it. If R is 0, this is 0, and the square root of 1 is 1, times 2 is 2, plus 2 is 4, right? So, it's obviously ridiculous, because as you get down here, then this is no longer defined. There is no PR, but the limit. So it's a totally irrelevant. What I'm trying to tell you is it's a totally irrelevant, obfuscated exercise that has no learning objective. It doesn't even teach limits properly. And what you have is these prize idiots like John Henry and the rest of Tanner Zart's math department, who I actually called morons in an exit email to him, because that's what they were. And at any rate, you have a dysfunctional high school, which is, believe it or not, representative of 99.999% of all high schools in the United States. And it's unfortunate because kids are not getting the education they're supposed to get, teenagers. And what's even more ironic is that they had the best math teacher in the world there, and they led me up to the point where I told them to take their job, shove it up their asses, and I left. Okay, so because I simply wanted, believe it or not, they wanted me to apologize to the teachers for appearing to be, what's the word for it? An evaluator. In other words, they thought I was evaluating their classes. Can you believe it? When I actually took very special care not to say even a single word in their classes. At any rate, that's one of the experiences I had in Port Angeles, and wasn't a good experience. That was the first time I began to see a blur in my right eye. Looking back, I don't know if it was a good thing that I even responded to Americorps' ad, because I was approached by one of the representatives, a person called Michelle Gentry. So at first I thought she was very nice, but now, to be honest, I'm not so sure. And I'm going to leave it at that. If you're not a ready subscriber, go to any one of my channels and click, or any one of my videos, and click on the join button to become a member. For €4.99, you have access to everything that's in my members only channel and directory. So I have a special directory too. That's right. This directory here, members only directory. So you'll have access to all the goodies inside this directory here. Also, I recommend that you try to join Discord, the New Calculus Discord, where you can learn a lot of new things. Initially, you'll only have access to lobby and questions. If you're able to pass the 10-question new calculus test, you'll be admitted as a member. Otherwise, obviously not. So that's pretty much it. I'm John Gabriel, and this is a New Calculus channel. By the way, I'll put a link to this applet so that you can see what's being done here and understand why the American mathematics system of education is so broken, and basically why it's so broken all over the world. I'm John Gabriel, and this is New Calculus Channel. Till next time, good.